They lied to you. They told you God was somewhere out there watching from a distance, judging, testing, rewarding. But what if I told you the real secret is that you are God? Sounds crazy, right? That's because the ego's biggest trick was convincing you that you're small, powerless, and at the mercy of life's chaos. That's the illusion. And worry? Worry is just the side effect of forgetting who you really are. While you're busy imagining everything that could go wrong, your divine nature is sitting quietly in the background, waiting to be remembered. You've been hypnotized by your own mind, reacting to fears that aren't even real. But there's a way out, a way to wake up from this trance, dissolve the stress, and return to a state of unshakable peace. And no, it doesn't involve 10 years of meditation or moving to a monastery. You just need to understand how the ego operates, and more importantly, how to access the observer within you. Once you see the game, you stop playing by its rules. And the best part, you'll never worry the same way again. 1. Worry is a spell of the ego. Worry doesn't come from reality. It's born in the mind. It's like watching a movie that your ego wrote, directed and starred in without realizing you can walk out of the theater anytime. Most people live hypnotized by their thoughts, trapped in future scenarios that haven't even happened. The ego uses worry to trick you into thinking you're being responsible, when really it just wants to stay in control. That constant tension? It's not protection. It's programming. The ego thrives on the illusion of danger. It paints tomorrow as a battlefield so you never notice the peace available now. And here's the crazy part. You're not even worried about what's happening. You're worried about what might happen. It's a full-time job with no paycheck. This illusion keeps you disconnected from your own divine nature, from the stillness where God speaks through consciousness, not noise. Take a moment to think about it. When was the last time you felt deep worry while being totally present? Probably never. That's because worry can't survive in the present moment. It only lives in the mind's projection. Try this as a daily exercise. Set a 5-minute timer, close your eyes, and say, I am here now. Feel what it's like to just be without planning or fixing. Do it during a lunch break or right before sleep. Once you notice how the ego weaves its fear-based stories, you stop buying tickets to the show. You start recognizing that worry isn't just unhelpful. It's a form of self-sabotage wrapped in logic. But when you realize you're not the movie, you're the observer watching it all unfold, everything begins to shift. 2. You are not the mind. You are the observer. There's a moment in every awakening journey when a man realizes he's not his thoughts. That voice in your head narrating every detail, that's not you. It's just mental noise on repeat, like an annoying radio station you forgot you could turn off. True consciousness begins when you take a step back and become the observer, watching without reacting. That's where clarity lives. The mind loves to pretend it's in charge. It throws thoughts at you like spaghetti on a wall, hoping something sticks. But when you observe instead of attach, you stop being the puppet and start becoming the puppeteer. You notice the stories of fear, judgment, anxiety, and you let them pass like clouds. Real freedom isn't about controlling the mind. It's about not letting it control you. Here's something practical. Next time you catch yourself caught in overthinking, say out loud, that's a thought, not reality. Do it in the car, in the shower, even while washing dishes. You'll feel a little silly, but you'll break the spell. Over time, your awareness becomes sharper and the ego's grip weaker. Observing becomes your superpower, and you stop reacting to every trigger like it's life or death. This shift isn't a one-time event, it's a practice. One day you catch yourself mid-worry, the next day you smile at the thought without chasing it. That smile, that's God reminding you who's really home. The mind never shuts up, but you don't have to listen to it anymore. And when the stories of fear start fading, something deeper begins to rise from within. 3. Worry reveals the shadow self. Worry isn't just noise, It's a message. A flare shot up from the unconscious saying, hey, there's something down here you haven't dealt with. Jung called it the shadow. Mystics call it unintegrated energy. Either way, worry is often a signal that there's a part of you, usually buried deep, that needs light, not more thinking. The ego hates this truth because it wants to keep everything polished on the surface. That pit in your stomach when something might go wrong, that's not just fear of the future. It's a memory, a wound, a younger version of you still frozen in time. Maybe it's the boy who got shamed for expressing himself, or the man who failed once and never forgave himself. Worry becomes the smoke, but the fire is always something unresolved within your consciousness. God doesn't speak through fear. Your shadow does. Want to go deeper? Grab a journal and write down the last thing you worried about. Then ask yourself, what past experience does this remind me of? You'll be shocked how fast the root shows up. This is how shadow work begins, not in theory, but in real, messy human moments. The observer in you shines a light, and the shadows start losing their power. Once you see worry as a mirror instead of a monster, something shifts. You stop running and start listening. And through that listening, you begin to heal. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your invitation. Every time worry pops up, it's another opportunity to remember who you really are. And once you remember that, well, the next revelation is just around the corner. 4. You are the creator, not the victim. Here's the hard truth most people avoid. Worry is a misuse of imagination. That same powerful mind that's busy painting worst-case scenarios could be creating miracles. But the ego loves to play the victim. It whispers, you have no control, while quietly hijacking your consciousness to manifest exactly what you fear. It's spiritual sabotage. Clever, sneaky, and totally optional. You weren't made to survive. You were made to create. That divine spark within you, that's God. And God doesn't worry, God creates. So why keep spending your energy rehearsing disasters when you could be designing your life? Start catching yourself in the act. When your mind says, what if it all goes wrong? Ask instead, what if it all works out? Same energy, different outcome. Let's get practical. Set aside 10 minutes each morning to visualize your day going beautifully. Not just the big wins. See the small stuff too. The smile from a stranger, the good parking spot, the peaceful moment in traffic. You're training your consciousness to expect creation, not chaos. And with repetition, your outer world starts catching up to that inner vision. Every time you stop acting like life is happening to you and start showing up as the observer and creator, you take your power back. Worry fades when you're too busy manifesting your vision. You weren't born to sit in fear, you were born to move mountains. And the first one to move is the illusion that you're powerless. 5. Surrender is power, not weakness. Most people hear surrender and think of giving up, but in spiritual truth, surrender is how you win. The ego wants control. It feeds off the illusion that it can plan, predict, and manipulate everything. But consciousness knows better. Surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's trusting that you don't need to grip the steering wheel when God's already driving. Think of the last time you let go of something and it magically worked out. That job you didn't chase but landed anyway. The relationship that healed once you stopped trying to fix it. That wasn't luck. That was alignment. Surrender clears the noise so your real identity can rise. It's like switching off a faulty GPS and finally hearing the inner voice that already knows the way. Here's something simple. When you feel tense, say, I release control. I trust the flow. Say it 3 times, with your hand on your chest. Sounds cheesy, do it anyway. You're not talking to the outside world. You're reminding your own nervous system that it's safe to let go. That's where your power hides, not in pushing harder, but in aligning deeper. When you surrender, you stop wrestling with life and start dancing with it. And once you taste that freedom, something inside you clicks. You stop resisting the unknown and start feeling at home in it. Because behind the curtain of control lies the real magic, and it only reveals itself to those brave enough to trust. 6. Trust is the frequency of the eternal soul. Trust isn't some fluffy idea for spiritual memes. It's a frequency. And when you tune into it, your whole world shifts. The ego will always scream, "What if this goes wrong?" But your eternal soul already knows it's handled. Trust doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you stop letting fear hijack your mind. It's a quiet knowing that consciousness, not chaos, runs the show. Most men trust more in their problems than in their power. They trust statistics, deadlines, worst-case scenarios, but not the God within them. That's backwards. Real trust comes when you stop outsourcing your safety to the external world. You start looking within and saying, "I've survived everything so far. Why would the universe drop me now?" It's not blind faith, it's soul memory. Here's a little test. Pick one small thing today to fully trust. Maybe it's traffic flowing easily. Maybe it's a payment arriving. Maybe it's just a peaceful conversation. Don't obsess over it. Just decide. Feel it already done. That moment you stop checking and start expecting, that's when your frequency changes. That's when the observer takes over and the ego takes a seat. Trust makes you magnetic. It's not loud or dramatic, it's grounded. The kind of calm that shakes people because they don't understand how you're not panicking. But you know why. You're plugged into something deeper. And when you start living from that place, life stops being a problem to solve and becomes a mystery to enjoy. 7. Uncertainty is the playground of magic. Uncertainty drives the ego crazy. It wants answers, guarantees, backup plans. But here's the twist. Uncertainty is where all the good stuff lives. Miracles don't happen on spreadsheets. Synchronicity doesn't follow logic. Magic shows up when the mind backs off and consciousness takes the lead. That's why the unknown isn't the enemy. It's the invitation. Think about it. The most life-changing moments rarely come when you're comfortable. They show up unannounced, in the silence after a breakup, the job you didn't plan for, the conversation you didn't expect. The ego freaks out, but the observer knows. This is the setup. God doesn't need you to predict the path. He needs you to stay open for the next step to appear. Here's something to try. Next time you're unsure about a decision, instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" ask, "What surprise could come from this?" Write that question in your notes. Read it when things feel shaky. It shifts your energy from fear to curiosity. That's the difference between staying stuck and allowing a breakthrough. The more you lean into uncertainty, the more you start seeing patterns, signs, and nudges. Coincidences pile up. People call at the right moment. Solutions fall into place. You're not figuring it out anymore. You're flowing. And in that flow, you start touching something deeper, something that feels a lot like remembering. 8. Return to the I am presence. At some point, the seeking ends. The books, the mentors, the theories, they all point back to the same place, the I am. Not as an idea, but as your core identity. Before the mind started labeling everything, before the ego started panicking about life, there was just awareness. Pure, untouched, undivided, that's God in you. And once you remember that, everything quiets down. The ego hates this simplicity. It wants a checklist, a plan, something to do. But the I am isn't about doing, it's about being. It's sitting in silence and realizing you don't need to become anything. You already are. Try this. Close your eyes for 1 minute and repeat in your mind, I am. Nothing more. Feel how the noise falls away. That's not emptiness. That's presence. You don't need to earn divinity. You just forgot it. That's why the world feels heavy. The illusion of separation clouds your consciousness, making you chase things you already hold. But when you return to the observer within, when you rest in I am, even your worries start to look small. They lose their grip, not because they're solved, but because you're no longer hypnotized by them. This is where everything comes full circle. Worry, fear, control, doubt, they all dissolve in the light of presence, because in the now, nothing's missing, nothing's broken. And in that space, you stop looking for peace and realize you are it. If you want to elevate your vibrations and manifest with more ease, I have prepared something special for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment and join us in the journey of awakening your inner mage.